You tell yourself you want more money because you deserve it. You work harder than most. You sacrifice more than others, and deep down, you believe the universe owes you prosperity. But here is the truth you refuse to face. You are secretly terrified of actually becoming wealthy. Not because you fear failure, but because you fear success. You fear the weight, the responsibility, the version of yourself you would have to become. Most people chase wealth like children chasing shadows, never understanding why it always slips through their fingers. They blame the economy, their circumstances, their lack of connections. But I, Solomon, who possessed more gold than entire kingdoms, who commanded wisdom that kings traveled continents to hear, tell you this. Wealth has nothing to do with your external world and everything to do with your internal character. Money is not numbers on a screen. Money is raw power, and power in the hands of someone unprepared is not a blessing. It is a weapon pointed at their own heart. This is why most who suddenly acquire wealth destroy themselves within years. They were not ready to bear the weight of what they thought they wanted. Today, I offer you something dangerous. Not another strategy or technique, but a complete transformation of who you are at your core. Because here is what the wealthy know that the poor never learn. Prosperity is not attracted to desperation. It is attracted to character. It flows toward those who have proven they can handle its immense responsibility without being corrupted by its seductive whispers. This video will make you dangerously rich, but only if you have the courage to face what true wealth demands of you. Only if you are willing to become someone completely different than who you are right now. Someone who values wisdom over comfort, silence over applause, purpose over pleasure. The path I am about to reveal has created more millionaires throughout history than any business model or investment strategy ever could. But it requires you to die to who you think you are and be reborn as who you were meant to become. If you are ready for this transformation, if you are tired of playing small while dreaming big, then subscribe now and prepare to discover why this ancient wisdom is more powerful than any modern wealth formula. Because what I am about to share with you will change everything, but only if you are brave enough to let it. Number 1, love silence more than approval. You check your phone 17 times before making a single important decision. You ask your spouse, your friends, your colleagues, even strangers on the internet what they think you should do with your money, your business, your life. You tell yourself you are being wise by seeking counsel, but deep inside, you know the truth. You are addicted to approval. You cannot breathe unless someone else validates your next breath. And this addiction is the invisible chain that keeps you financially imprisoned. I have watched kingdoms rise and fall, and I tell you this. Every great fortune was built by someone who learned to love silence more than applause. The marketplace is loud, full of voices shouting advice, opinions, predictions. Everyone has something to say about what you should do with your money. But wealth does not flow to those who follow the crowd's wisdom. It flows to those who have the courage to sit in silence until their own inner voice becomes clear enough to guide them. Think of a well in the desert. On the surface, there is noise, wind, the chatter of travelers passing by. But the water, the life-giving treasure, lies deep below in absolute silence. Most people prefer to stay on the surface, listening to the noise, dying of thirst while surrounded by others doing the same. They mistake the crowd's chatter for wisdom, never realizing that true direction can only be found in the depths of solitude. There was once a merchant I knew who could not make a single decision without consulting everyone around him. When an opportunity arose to purchase a rare shipment of spices, he spent weeks asking every trader in the market what they thought. Some said buy, others said wait, most said they did not know. Instead of trusting his own judgment, he formed a partnership with 3 other merchants because their collective approval made him feel safe. The partnership was a disaster. Each partner had different visions, different timelines, different levels of commitment. They argued over every decision, delayed crucial purchases, and missed the seasonal demand. Within a year, all four had lost their investments. Later, alone in his emptied warehouse, the merchant finally understood. His need for approval had cost him everything. Had he sat in silence, trusted his initial instinct, and acted alone, he would have tripled his wealth. Here is what silence reveals that no amount of external advice ever can. Why you really want money. Not the pretty reason you tell others, but the raw, honest truth. Are you seeking wealth to prove your worth to a father who never believed in you? To escape the fear of being abandoned? To control others because you feel powerless inside? Silence forces you to confront these hidden motivations. And until you face them, money will always be a drug, not a tool. Silence also shows you what wealth will cost you. Your current friends may resent your success. Your marriage may face pressures it never had before. Family members may see you differently, treat you differently, expect things from you they never expected before. Most people never consider these consequences because they are too busy seeking approval for their dreams. They never pause to ask if they are truly ready for what they say they want. Every day you must practice this. 15 minutes of absolute silence. No phone, no music, no distractions. Just you and the quiet. If you cannot endure 15 minutes alone with your own thoughts, you are not ready to manage serious wealth. Money amplifies everything about you. If you cannot face yourself in silence, you cannot face yourself with power. The hardest part of loving silence more than approval is learning to disappoint people you care about. There will come moments when your inner voice tells you to make a decision that your loved ones will not understand, will not support, might even oppose. This is the ultimate test. Will you choose what you know is right, or will you choose peace with people who do not have to live with the consequences of your choices? True wealth is born in the space between what others expect of you and what you know you must do. That space is called silence, and only those brave enough to live there will ever discover what they are truly capable of becoming. Number 2, desire wisdom more than profit. You lie awake calculating how much money you could make if this deal works out, if that investment pays off, if your business takes off like you hope. Your mind races with numbers, projections, possibilities. But tell me, when was the last time you lost sleep wondering if you had enough character to handle success? When did you last worry about whether you possess the wisdom to manage wealth without it destroying everything you claim to value? The graveyard of prosperity is filled with people who got exactly what they thought they wanted. Lottery winners who lost everything within 5 years. Heirs who squandered generational wealth in a single decade. Entrepreneurs who built empires only to watch them crumble because they never built themselves. The problem was never a lack of money. The problem was a lack of wisdom to handle what money demands of its steward. When I was young and God appeared to me in a dream, offering me anything I desired, I could have asked for gold, for land, for armies to expand my kingdom. Instead, I asked for wisdom. Not because I was exceptionally noble, but because I had seen what happened to rulers who possessed power without the inner strength to wield it responsibly. I had watched my father David struggle with the weight of kingship, seen how wealth and power could corrupt even the most well-intentioned heart. So I asked for the one thing that could protect me from prosperity's seductive poison, the ability to discern right from wrong, to see clearly through the illusions that wealth creates. And what happened? The wisdom brought wealth beyond imagination, not because God was rewarding my choice, but because wisdom naturally attracts prosperity. When you know how to make sound decisions, money flows toward you. When you understand human nature, business opportunities become obvious. When you can see through deception and illusion, you avoid the costly mistakes that bankrupt others. Wisdom is not the enemy of wealth. It is wealth's most faithful guardian. But here is what most people never understand. The question that changes everything is not, how can I get rich? The question is, how can I become worthy of managing wealth? This single shift in thinking transforms your entire relationship with money. Instead of chasing profit, you begin developing character. Instead of looking for shortcuts, you focus on building a foundation strong enough to support whatever prosperity comes your way. Think of it like a tree. Money is the fruit, visible and appealing, but the fruit is only as strong as the root system beneath the soil. A tree with shallow roots might produce impressive fruit for a season, but the first strong wind will topple it. However, a tree with deep, strong roots will not only survive every storm but will produce fruit year after year, decade after decade. Wisdom is the root system of lasting wealth. Without it, prosperity is temporary decoration. With it, prosperity becomes inevitable consequence. There was a merchant in my time who had built a successful trading business through years of honest work. Then one day, a stranger approached him with an opportunity that seemed too good to pass up. A shipment of goods at half the market price, guaranteed to triple his investment within months. The stranger's documents looked authentic. His references seemed credible. His promises were backed by what appeared to be solid contracts. The merchant's friends all encouraged him to take the deal. His family was excited about the potential windfall. Everyone around him said he would be foolish not to seize such an opportunity. But the merchant had spent years developing not just business skills, but wisdom. Something about the deal felt wrong, though he could not put his finger on exactly what. The stranger was too eager, the profit margins too high, the timeline too aggressive. Against everyone's advice, against his own desire for quick wealth, he declined. 6 months later, he learned that the stranger was a fraud. The documents were forgeries, and everyone who had invested with him lost everything. The merchant's wisdom had saved him from financial ruin, while his lack of greed had preserved his reputation and relationships. This is how wisdom protects wealth. It acts as a filter, separating real opportunities from dangerous illusions. It gives you the patience to wait for genuine prosperity rather than gambling on false promises. It helps you recognize when profit comes at the cost of integrity, and it gives you the strength to choose long-term sustainability over short-term gain. Every day, life presents you with a choice between immediate profit and lasting wisdom. A shortcut that could save time but compromise your values. A deal that could make you money but requires you to mislead someone. A partnership that could boost your income but involves people you do not trust. These are not just business decisions, they are character tests. And how you respond determines not just your immediate profit, but your long-term capacity for true wealth. When you choose wisdom over gain, you prove to life itself that you can be trusted with greater responsibility. This is the spiritual mathematics of prosperity. The more you demonstrate that you will not sacrifice principle for profit, the more opportunities for both principle and profit will come your way. True wealth is not just about having money. It is about having the wisdom to use money in ways that create more wisdom, more opportunities, more positive impact in the world. This is the difference between being rich and being wealthy. Rich people have money, but wealthy people have the character to multiply money while staying true to who they are meant to be. Number 3, do not idolize comfort. You have worked hard for the luxuries in your life. The better car, the nicer home, the expensive dinners, the premium subscriptions, the designer clothes that make you feel successful. You tell yourself these things are rewards for your efforts, symbols of progress, proof that your sacrifices are paying off. But underneath the satisfaction, there is something you try not to notice. The growing emptiness that no amount of comfort can fill. You are discovering the most dangerous truth about prosperity. It is not poverty that destroys most wealthy people, it is luxury. Comfort is seductive because it promises to heal wounds that can only be healed from within. You buy things hoping they will make you feel worthy, loved, secure, happy. But every purchase provides only temporary relief, like a drug that requires higher doses to produce the same effect. What once thrilled you now feels ordinary. What once impressed you now bores you. So you need more, better, newer, shinier. The cycle becomes endless, and the emptiness grows larger with each attempt to fill it. I have lived in palaces that took decades to build, eaten from golden plates, worn robes woven with threads more valuable than most people's homes. I have experienced every pleasure, every luxury, every comfort that wealth can provide. And I learned the most sobering truth of all: the more you have, the less each additional thing means to you. This is not philosophy, this is mathematics. Diminishing returns apply not just to economics but to happiness itself. But here is what most people miss. There is a different kind of pursuit that works in reverse. The more wisdom you seek, the more satisfying it becomes. The more you learn, the more interesting life becomes. The more you grow, the more possibilities you see. Unlike pleasure, which becomes boring with repetition, growth becomes more exciting the longer you pursue it. This is why the wise person finds more joy in a simple conversation with someone interesting than the foolish person finds in an entire weekend of expensive entertainment. The greatest danger of comfort is not that it costs money, but that it numbs you to the pain you need to feel in order to heal and grow. When you can buy your way out of every discomfort, you lose the motivation to face the inner work that would actually solve your problems. Feeling lonely, by companionship; feeling insecure, by status symbols; feeling purposeless, by experiences. But none of these purchases address the root cause of the pain, so the pain always returns, often stronger than before. I once knew a prince who inherited vast wealth at a young age. Instead of using his resources to build something meaningful, he spent his days pursuing every pleasure imaginable. Exotic foods, expensive wines, elaborate entertainments, beautiful companions. For years his life seemed enviable, but gradually those who knew him watched him become hollow. The pleasures that once excited him no longer touched him. He needed increasingly extreme experiences to feel anything at all. Eventually, he could not find any pleasure intense enough to mask the emptiness inside him. The tragedy was not that he lost his wealth, though he eventually did. The tragedy was that he never discovered what his wealth could have enabled him to become. Instead of using his comfort as a foundation for growth, he used it as an escape from growth. Instead of leveraging his security to take meaningful risks, he used it to avoid all risk. The very advantages that could have made him extraordinary became the prison that kept him ordinary. Before you can safely enjoy abundance, you must develop what I call inner wealth, a sense of purpose that fulfills you, relationships that genuinely nourish you, and peace with who you are when all the external decorations are stripped away. Without this foundation, external wealth becomes a desperate attempt to purchase what can only be grown from within. This is why I tell you, pursue comfort as a tool, never as a goal. Let luxury serve your mission, not replace it. Enjoy pleasure, but do not depend on it for your happiness. Use your resources to create margin for growth, not to avoid the growth that discomfort would force upon you. The wealthy person who finds deep satisfaction in simple things is far richer than the wealthy person who needs expensive things to feel temporarily satisfied. True prosperity is not measured by how much comfort you can afford, but by how little comfort you need to feel genuinely content. Number 4, know how to say no to what you want now. You want success, and you want it immediately. You see others who seem to have achieved in months what you have been working toward for years, and impatience burns inside you like acid. You change strategies every few weeks, jump from opportunity to opportunity, abandon projects before they have time to mature. You tell yourself you are being adaptive, flexible, smart about seizing the moment. But deep down, you know the truth. You are destroying your own future because you cannot bear the weight of waiting for it. Patience is not passive endurance. It is active faith in processes that require time to unfold. When I decided to build the temple, I could have rushed the construction, hired more workers, cut corners to finish faster. The nation was eager to see it completed. My advisors pressed me for quick results, and my own pride wanted to see my vision realized as soon as possible. But I understood something that impatience always forgets. The most valuable things cannot be hurried without being damaged. Instead of rushing, I spent 7 years in preparation. 7 years of gathering materials, training craftsmen, designing every detail, organizing the logistics. 7 years of waiting before the first stone was laid. People questioned my timeline, called it unnecessary, suggested I was overthinking a straightforward project. But when construction finally began, everything flowed with precision because the foundation had been properly laid. The temple stood for centuries, not because it was built quickly, but because it was built right. Think of a seed planted in rich soil. A child, eager to see results, might dig up the soil every week to check if the roots are growing. But this constant disruption prevents the seed from establishing the deep root system it needs to eventually produce fruit. The farmer who plants and then waits, trusting the process even when nothing visible is happening above ground, will harvest abundance while the impatient child harvests nothing but ruined potential. This is exactly what happens with financial success. You start a business and expect profits within 3 months. When they do not come, you pivot to a different model. When that does not work immediately, you abandon it for another opportunity. You are like someone planting seeds in January, digging them up in March because there is no fruit yet, planting different seeds in April, digging those up in June, and then wondering why you never have a harvest while others seem to succeed effortlessly. I knew a merchant who came to me with a plan to revolutionize trade between our kingdom and distant lands. His vision was sound, his strategy was clever, his passion was evident. But when I asked about his timeline, he said he expected to be wealthy within 3 months. I looked at this ambitious young man and saw the seed of his own failure. Wealth that comes that quickly usually goes just as quickly. I told him that if his plan was truly valuable, it would still be valuable in 3 years, and the wealth it generated would be sustainable. If it was only valuable as a quick strike, it was not valuable at all. He ignored my advice. Within a year, he had started and abandoned 4 different ventures, each time convinced that the next one would be the fast path to riches. Meanwhile, another merchant I knew took a similar idea, but planned for a 5-year timeline. He built relationships slowly, established systems carefully, reinvested profits instead of spending them, and gradually created a trading network that generated wealth for decades. The difference between these 2 men was not intelligence, opportunity, or luck. The difference was their relationship with time. One saw time as an enemy to be conquered. The other saw time as an ally to be leveraged. One demanded immediate gratification. The other was willing to delay gratification for the sake of lasting satisfaction. When you can say no to what you want now, you prove to yourself and to life itself that you are mature enough to handle what you want most. Every time you choose long-term benefit over short-term pleasure, you build the character that wealth requires. Every time you resist the temptation to take shortcuts, you develop the patience that sustainable success demands. This is not just about business or money. This is about becoming the kind of person who can be trusted with increasing levels of responsibility and opportunity. Life is always watching how you handle small delays to see if you can be trusted with large rewards. The person who cannot wait 6 months for a small return will never be given the opportunity to wait 6 years for a large return. Your ability to delay gratification is your application for greater prosperity. Every time you choose the harder path that will pay off later over the easier path that pays off now, you are telling the universe that you are ready for more responsibility, more resources, more impact. And the universe responds by opening doors that remain forever closed to those who always choose immediate pleasure over future abundance. Number 5, see value where others see contempt. You walk past 100 opportunities every day without recognizing them, because they do not look like what you think success should look like. You ignore the person with valuable knowledge because they dress simply. You dismiss the idea because it came from someone young, or old, or poor, or uneducated. You overlook the potential in what seems ordinary, common, beneath your attention. And while you wait for opportunities that announce themselves with fanfare, others are quietly building fortunes from the treasures you refuse to see. Most people have trained their eyes to recognize only obvious value: gold that glitters, diamonds that sparkle, opportunities that come with impressive presentations and guarantees of success. But real wealth is almost always hidden in plain sight, disguised as something unremarkable, overlooked by those who only value what others have already validated as valuable. I remember reading about a city under siege, facing destruction because no one could solve a seemingly impossible military problem. The king's advisors, the greatest generals, the most educated strategists all failed to find a solution. But there was a poor man in the city, someone nobody paid attention to, whose simple wisdom saved everyone. His insight was so obvious that once he explained it, everyone wondered why they had not seen it themselves. Yet after the crisis passed, this same man was forgotten, dismissed, ignored once again. People celebrated the victory but never honored the source of their salvation. This story reveals the tragedy of human nature. We are so focused on impressive packaging that we miss profound substance. We value the messenger more than the message, the presentation more than the content, the reputation more than the reality. And because of this blindness, extraordinary opportunities pass through our lives unnoticed, while we wait for ordinary opportunities that come with extraordinary marketing. There was once a young man working in the stables of a wealthy estate. Everyone saw him as just another servant, someone to clean stalls and feed horses. But one observant visitor noticed something others missed. This young man had an unusual gift for understanding horses. He could calm wild stallions, predict which horses would run fastest, spot health problems before trained veterinarians noticed them. While others saw a stable boy, this visitor saw a future horse trainer, breeder, and trader. The visitor offered to help the young man start his own business. Within 10 years, that former stable boy had become one of the most successful horse dealers in the region. His gift had always been there, but it took someone with trained eyes to recognize its value. Everyone else had looked at his circumstances, his job title, his social position. Only one person looked at his actual abilities. This is how wealth is created, by seeing value where others see nothing worth noticing. While the crowd chases obvious opportunities that are already overcrowded and overpriced, the wise person investigates what everyone else dismisses. They find profit in problems others avoid, see potential in people others ignore, discover opportunity in situations others consider hopeless. But developing this vision requires humility that most people find painful. You must be willing to learn from anyone, regardless of their age, education, appearance, or social status. You must ask yourself not who is saying this, but what truth might be hidden in what they are saying. You must investigate before you dismiss, listen before you judge, look deeper before you move on. The person who taught you the most important lesson about money might have been someone you almost ignored. The idea that changes your life might come from a conversation you were tempted to cut short. The opportunity that makes you wealthy might be hidden inside a problem everyone else is complaining about, but no one is trying to solve. Train your eyes to see what others overlook. When everyone else sees an abandoned building, learn to see potential renovation. When others see a failing business, look for the valuable assets or customer base that could be redirected. When people complain about a problem, hear it as a business opportunity waiting for someone wise enough to provide a solution. The most successful people I have known all shared this quality. They could find diamonds in what others considered dirt. They did not wait for perfect opportunities to present themselves in perfect packaging. They created perfect opportunities by seeing imperfect situations with perfect clarity. Your next fortune may be disguised as your current frustration. Your greatest opportunity may be hidden in what seems like your biggest problem. The person who can help you most may be someone you would normally never think to ask. But you will only discover these treasures if you develop the eyes to see value where others see only contempt. Number 6, understand that everything you have is borrowed. You clutch your possessions like a drowning person clutches a rope, terrified that losing anything you own will somehow diminish who you are. You check your account balances obsessively, calculate your net worth as if it were your life score, panic when investments lose value as if your identity itself were shrinking. But this desperate grip on temporary things is precisely what prevents you from receiving the abundance that wants to flow through your life. The fundamental illusion that destroys most people's relationship with wealth is the belief that they own anything at all. You came into this world with nothing, and you will leave it the same way. Everything in between, every dollar, every possession, every opportunity is temporarily placed in your care. You are not the owner, you are the steward. And until you understand this distinction, money will be your master instead of your tool. When you think like an owner, every loss becomes a personal attack, every setback a theft, every economic downturn a punishment. You make decisions from fear, hoarding resources instead of investing them, protecting what you have instead of multiplying it. But when you think like a steward, everything changes. Losses become redirections, setbacks become lessons, economic storms become opportunities to acquire assets at lower prices. Imagine you are hired to manage a garden for someone you deeply respect and trust. You would not hoard the seeds in storage, afraid to plant them because they might not all grow. You would not refuse to prune dying branches because cutting them feels like waste. You would plant strategically, water consistently, prune courageously, and harvest gratefully, knowing that the garden's flourishing is more important than preserving any individual plant. This is how wealth grows, through circulation, investment, and strategic risk-taking, not through hoarding and fearful protection. The mathematics of stewardship work differently than the mathematics of ownership. When you hoard money, it stays the same or loses value through inflation. When you invest money in people, projects, and opportunities that create value, it multiplies. When you circulate wealth through the economy, it generates more wealth. When you use resources to solve problems, you create systems that generate ongoing abundance. But perhaps the greatest benefit of understanding stewardship is the emotional freedom it provides. When you know that nothing truly belongs to you, you can hold everything lightly. You can take calculated risks without paralyzing fear, because you know that losing temporary things does not diminish your eternal worth. You can be generous without feeling depleted, because you know that giving from abundance attracts more abundance. I learned this lesson deeply when I realized that even my famous wisdom was not really mine to possess. It was given to me to be shared, to be used for the benefit of others, to be multiplied through teaching and application. The more wisdom I gave away, the more I seemed to receive. The more problems I helped others solve, the more my own understanding grew. The more I used my gifts in service of something greater than myself, the more fulfilled and prosperous I became. This principle applies to every form of wealth. Money that sits idle in accounts generates minimal return. Money that is invested in productive ventures generates compounding returns. Knowledge that is hoarded helps only you. Knowledge that is shared creates networks and opportunities that benefit everyone involved. Talents that are hidden provide no value to anyone. Talents that are developed and deployed create value that returns to you multiplied. The key question that changes everything is this: if I were managing these resources for someone I absolutely trust, what would I do with them? This question removes the fear and greed that cloud judgment. It helps you think long-term instead of short-term, strategically instead of emotionally, abundantly instead of scarcely. When you manage money as a steward rather than clutching it as an owner, you make better decisions. You invest in assets that appreciate rather than liabilities that depreciate. You build systems that generate passive income rather than just working harder for active income. You create value that serves others while serving yourself. You think in terms of cash flow and impact rather than just accumulation and control. The wealthy person who understands stewardship sleeps peacefully during market volatility, knowing that temporary fluctuations do not change fundamental value. They give generously, knowing that circulation creates more opportunity for return. They invest courageously, knowing that calculated risks with borrowed resources are wiser than fearful hoarding of imagined possessions. Everything you think you own is actually on loan to you, and your wealth will be determined by how wisely you manage what has been temporarily placed in your care. Number 7, pray for discernment and act with courage. You avoid making the hard decisions that would change everything because you secretly hope someone else will make them for you. You pray for open doors but lack the courage to walk through them. You ask for wisdom but fear what that wisdom might require of you. You want clarity about your path but resist the responsibility that comes with seeing clearly. This internal conflict between wanting guidance and avoiding accountability is what keeps most people trapped in mediocrity when they could be walking in extraordinary purpose. When you pray for discernment, you are not asking God to make your decisions for you. You are asking for the ability to see situations clearly, to understand consequences accurately, to recognize opportunities and dangers with precision. But discernment always comes with a price. The responsibility to act on what you see, even when action is difficult, costly, or misunderstood by others. True discernment reveals uncomfortable truths. It shows you which relationships are draining your energy and resources. It exposes which habits are sabotaging your progress. It unveils which opportunities are genuine and which are illusions. It clarifies which fears are protecting you and which are limiting you. But seeing clearly is only half the equation. The other half is having the courage to respond to what you see with appropriate action. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to do what is right despite fear. Every significant financial decision involves choosing between competing priorities. Immediate comfort versus long-term benefit, popular opinion versus personal conviction, safe mediocrity versus risky excellence. Courage is what enables you to choose based on principle rather than pressure, on vision rather than emotion, on what you know is right rather than what feels easy. Every day, you face tests that reveal whether you possess the character necessary for greater responsibility. Will you have the difficult conversation that could save a failing business relationship? Will you invest in the opportunity that excites you but terrifies others? Will you say no to profitable ventures that compromise your values? Will you take calculated risks that could accelerate your progress? These are not just business decisions. They are character assessments that determine what level of responsibility and resource life will trust you with. Discernment often works like surgery. It reveals what needs to be cut away, even when cutting is painful. You might realize that a business partnership, though profitable, is fundamentally unhealthy and needs to end. You might see that a comfortable job, though secure, is preventing you from developing your true potential. You might understand that certain friendships, though familiar, are keeping you stuck in limiting patterns. Acting on these insights requires the courage to disappoint people, to face uncertainty, to endure temporary discomfort for the sake of long-term alignment. The person who combines discernment with courage becomes someone life can trust with increasing opportunity. Every time you see clearly and act bravely, you prove that you can handle more complex situations, greater resources, deeper responsibilities. Every time you choose integrity over immediate profit, you demonstrate that prosperity will not corrupt you. Every time you take wise risks despite fear, you show that abundance will not make you complacent. But discernment and courage must work together. Wisdom without action leads to paralysis and regret. You become someone who sees all the right moves but never makes them, who understands what needs to happen but lacks the strength to make it happen. On the other hand, courage without wisdom leads to destruction and waste. You become someone who acts boldly but foolishly, who takes risks without understanding consequences, who mistakes recklessness for bravery. The combination of these two qualities creates something extraordinary: the ability to see opportunities others miss and the strength to pursue them when others hesitate. You develop what I call spiritual confidence, the deep knowing that you are aligned with truth and therefore supported by the fundamental forces that govern success and fulfillment. This confidence is not arrogance or presumption. It is the quiet certainty that comes from consistently choosing discernment over assumption and courage over comfort. It is the peace of knowing that even if specific ventures fail, your character is being built in ways that will create future opportunities. It is the strength that comes from proving to yourself repeatedly that you will do what is right even when it is difficult. Practice this daily. Pause before important decisions and ask for the clarity to see all relevant factors and consequences. Then, once you see clearly, act without delay, without seeking permission, without waiting for perfect conditions. The person who consistently combines spiritual insight with courageous action becomes a magnet for extraordinary opportunities, trusted partnerships, and sustainable prosperity. When discernment and courage become your default responses, wealth stops being something you chase and becomes something that naturally flows toward the strength and wisdom you have developed. This is not just about making money. This is about becoming the kind of person that money seeks out, that opportunities gravitate toward, that success cannot help but follow. There is a moment in every person's life when they stand before a mirror that shows not their reflection, but their potential. Most people turn away from this mirror because what they see terrifies them. They see not just who they could become, but the price they would have to pay to become it. They see the relationships they would have to redefine, the habits they would have to abandon, the comfort zones they would have to shatter. And so they choose to remain small, telling themselves that greatness is not for people like them. But you have looked into this mirror today. You have seen the principles that separate those who merely wish for wealth from those who inevitably attract it. You have glimpsed the person you would need to become to bear the weight of true prosperity without being crushed by it. The question that remains is not whether these truths work, but whether you possess the strength to live them when everything inside you screams for the easier path. Wealth is not coming to rescue you from who you are. Wealth is coming to reveal who you are. And if you continue walking this path of inner transformation, if you keep developing the character that prosperity demands, you will discover something that changes everything. You were never chasing money at all. Money was always chasing the person you are capable of becoming. If you are ready to continue this transformation, to keep building the inner strength that makes outer abundance inevitable, then join others on this journey by subscribing. Because the person who can handle dangerous wealth is forged not in a single moment of decision, but in the daily choice to become worthy of what they claim to want. The mirror is still reflecting your potential, and you are still free to step toward it or away from it.